My name is Christina Ray. I am the marketing director at Lendesk. And we'll also be hearing from this webinar from Brad Lister. He is our mortgage rate and policy specialist here at Lendesk, as well as John Siva, who is the senior business development manager at People's Bank. For those of you who are unfamiliar or joining us for the first time today, Lendesk is a Canadian technology company that is on a mission to digitize and modernize the mortgage industry for mortgage professionals and lenders. We offer a suite of products, Lender Spotlight, Gateway, and Enterprise Solutions, and we have over 8,000 mortgage brokers and a couple hundred lenders using our products. Lendesk is SOC 2 compliant, which, to boil it down in simplified terms, means we are audited and we hold ourselves and our products to the highest level of digital and data security. So why we're here today? This webinar is part of a series that will be ongoing, and it really came about from observation. I think it's fair to say that in 2020, the mortgage industry has been dealt a really interesting hand. I think, we saw a lot of craziness in March, April, and May with the pandemic, client requests for mortgage deferrals. And after that, we've seen, it sounds cliche to say, we've seen this new normal and the landscape has really changed. And here at Lendesk, we've really observed, I guess, a rise in alternative lenders. There's a lot more borrowers or clients out there with nuanced deals that mortgage professionals have to navigate and deal with. So we really wanted to bring everyone together today to talk about this landscape and have a discussion on it, because I think it's fair to say alternative lenders, there's a lot of players in the game. There's a lot of different elements to consider when placing a deal. And we just wanted to help support the industry navigate the alternative lender space. And one thing to note is Lendesk owns and operates Lender Spotlight. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, Lender Spotlight essentially enables you as a mortgage professional to bring your A game to your client. It is a product that combines thousands of mortgage lender rates and policies into a single system and allows you to input client criteria and filter to find the appropriate lender or product for your client really fast. But one of the things we are most proud of is the accuracy of Lender Spotlight. We have a customer support team that goes in daily and updates rates and policies. And not only do they go in daily to update rates and policies, they go in to double check that the existing data is still correct. So it's pretty safe to say that our customer support team deals with a lot of lenders. They're living and breathing this space very regularly. And I'm really excited to, in a second or two, introduce my colleague, Brad. He lives in Lender Spotlight, is constantly talking to lenders and getting feedback from them. So he knows the space really well and has a lot of tips and tricks to share with everyone. So before I pass it over, 2 quick housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded, and we'll try and share this out with those after the webinar. And we are also going to try and do a live Q&A or a chat at the end to make sure that we have a bit of a group discussion and we get your questions answered. So we'll go through a few slides, but keep your questions handy because we'll get them answered, and you can put them in the chat when we get to the live Q&A portion at the end. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to say hello to our other speakers. Hi, Brad and John. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, Christina.
How's it going? So John, I think we're excited to hear from you in a little bit. I think you have some competitively priced alternative mortgage solutions for this group to hear about. But I might pass it over to Brad first. I think you've got some, what I like to call tips and tricks for the group about alternative lenders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I will share my screen. Okay, so in the a little over 3 years that I've been working on Spotlight and talking to lenders, I picked up what I would say would be the top 3 tips when it comes to the navigating in the alternative space. One of them is tell the whole client story when you're submitting the application. Walk the lender clearly through how the income is made up, the condition of the property, and any other issues. And make sure you also advise a lender on credit issues and what caused the problem so they have a full and complete picture. Tip number 2, proper income verification. The other thing I've, in sort of prepping some research for this, spoke again to a lot of my alternative BDMs, and they said, well, you know, what's one of the things that you find brokers run into and cause themselves their own headaches? And that's not reviewing the income docs clearly. Referring to tip number 1 and telling that full clear story, if you're sending in income docs and saying, hey, this is how the income is made up, and then you haven't clearly read the income docs, and that is not how the income is. So you might say you assume it's X. It really, once you really properly read the income docs, say, no, it really is Y. You've now caused yourself a bunch of headache without really needing to have done any of that. And then tip number 3, set up the client for success. Alt lending is all about solutions and not rate specific. And now, you know, let me show you on Spotlight where we're going to put the alt lender rates, and then a bit of notes that I shared, just so you can kind of clearly sort of navigate that into Spotlight. So here we are in Spotlight. This would be what our team version looks like. The biggest thing I want you to know is, like, you can search if you have a lender, if you have an alt lender, come in here to the alternate lender type, change it to alternate, and now you've got all the lender options, which conveniently is People's. Click on the product name and come down here to the notes and descriptions. This is where I'll put in things like the commitment fee. This is where I'll put in things that, hey, maybe interest-only payments are available. Speak to your BDM regarding the file. And I really put that a lot in under the alternate, because obviously this is the sort of more of the from rate in a lot when it comes to alternate files. When you send your file in, you know, depending on what you know, status that file looks like or anything like that, there might be some surcharges or things like that on there. So that's back to my tip number 3, setting up for success. Okay. And back to here. Some inside scoop tips for alternative lenders. Haventry Bank. Did you know that previous grow-ups can be considered at 75% with an environmental certificate? Wealth One. Did you know that Wealth One can help you with micro condos? Community Trust. Did you know that Community Trust has a HELOC available in Ontario? And in People's Bank, our good friends, John today, did you know that they can do rentals in the holding company under their near prime products? John, before we get, because we're going to jump onto your slides here in a moment, do you have some tips and anything else that you want to share with anybody?
Yeah, actually, well, Brad, I mean, all those tips you listed are absolutely fantastic, and it's something that lenders discuss all the time. You know, if you guys can follow those tips, that would very much help us out and also get your deals done a lot quicker. One thing that I've noticed, and some feedback for you, Brad, from the brokers that I've talked to, or specifically the ones that are new to the industry, is that it can be really challenging, you know, learning all the different guidelines and rates for all the different lenders out there. So when they use your comparison tool, it really saves them a bunch of time and frustration when they're trying to find homes for their deals.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll maybe take a time to show the comparison tool a little bit later in here. But let's show Jonathan here. And let Jonathan talk a little further about people here. Oop. There we go.
All right, so thank you very much, Brad and Christina, for having me on today. I hope all of you out there are well and keeping safe. For those of you who aren't too familiar with us, we've been around for about 30 years doing residential and commercial mortgages. We got underwriting centers in Vancouver as well as Toronto. We're formerly known as People's Trust, and then earlier on this year we received our bank license, and now we're officially People's Bank of Canada. We're currently offering 2 programs. First up is our Near Prime. It is fairly new. We launched that earlier this year as well. It's really for clients that are almost your typical bank clients, but just quite not there yet. I've listed some of the highlights there. So we will do 80% loan to value based on the Beacon score, GDS, TDS of 3944. Minimum Beacon 600. Now, I will add that if you have clients where you got co-applicants on the file and one's above 600, one's below 600, as long as both of them are employed and they have income coming in, we will count the higher Beacon to be eligible for our near prime program. The properties must be owner occupied. I get a lot of questions about rental income. So we use a 95% offset on standalone rentals and a 95% add back on basement, owner occupied basement suites. It's not on there, but what should be is our loan amounts. And we start off at a minimum of 200K, standard up to $1 million. On exception, we can go above that $1 million. What that amount looks like will really be based on the overall strength of the file. Second is our non-conforming. We've had this product for a number of years, but it has changed over time. Max loan to value is 65%. We will do rentals under this product. It's capped at 60% right now only because of what's going on with COVID, and hopefully when things kind of settle down and you start seeing light at the end of the tunnel, we'll go back up to 65, sorry. Standard GDS, TDS is 4250. No minimum Beacon score on this program. I've seen anything from low 4s to high 8s, so don't be afraid to send me some of those ugly scores. Same rental income for this program, a 95% offset on standalone rentals and an add back on basement owner occupied suites. Now, that's a quick highlight of the two programs. I would love to go into detail with you guys. So if you do want a little bit more of a comprehensive overview of both programs, please feel free to reach out to myself in BC and Adam Clark in Ontario. Just wanted to make sure I mentioned that we do have a rate special going on right now. 1 year close, 2.79. A deal must close before November 15th. There's a 1% fee on that we split 50-50 with you. And for the non-conforming, it's a 1 year close, 3.99, and that also must close before the 15th of November. 2% fee on that one, a split 50-50 with you. If you would like a full list of all of our rates and terms, please reach out to me or to Christina, who I'm sure put you in touch with me, and I'll get you guys added to our distribution list. And then any other questions, I'll happily wait for the Q&A. Over to you, Brad and Christina.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Brad. So as promised, we're going to keep this webinar short. So we're actually going to get into the Q&A. As mentioned, we have John on the line answering any questions you might have for people. We also have Brad, who lives and breathes in Lender Spotlight daily, so can answer a lot of questions about alternative lenders. Yesterday, we sent out an email asking for anyone if they wanted to pre-submit questions. So I'm actually going to have a look and ask those questions on the line for us today. But in the meantime, if any questions have popped in, please ask them in the chat, and we'll get to them after the first three. Thanks, Manny. Anyone else, feel free to pop in some questions while we move forward. So, Brad, we got a question, and I think you'd be best to answer this. It is one that was submitted yesterday. How can I show my client that it's not always about the rate, especially when I'm presenting an alternative lender to them? They seem to dismiss it quickly because it's not always the lowest rate they've seen.
The easiest thing I could show you is our compare and share tool, actually. Help you to kind of take a comparison of some of the alternative lender products. You can have a bit more of a broader discussion with somebody. So I'm in here where I was before in Spotlight. I'm hitting on the plus to bring up the compare and share tool. I'm including our good friends here from Peoples as well in the tool, so we can hit a compare. And then now you can pull up and see rates. I've grabbed one of the variables, but that's okay. That still gives you an idea of how the tool works. The rates, amortization, TDS, GDS in here. If there's any sort of prepayment privileges or any penalties are here as well. And if you want to dive a little further into any of their product, you can actually jump on into the policy section too. And of course, you know, you're on Spotlight, you're using this tool, you're comparing it, you're pulling information up. You want to ask a little further, jump on the question, as Christina said. I'm here all the time and will help point you in the right direction of anything else.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Yeah, one thing I love about our compare and share feature is that it can put everything up side by side, all of the lender products and policies, and you can actually export a PDF or report to clients so that they can see all the details, not just the rates compared side by side, which is really cool. Okay, the next question that came through yesterday, I think, John, this one might be for you. It mentions people. What lending areas does people service, and what are your TDS exceptions?
Yeah, for lending areas, we currently are only lending in BC and Ontario and any major urban center. Over the last couple of months, we've seen a ton of activity in some of these more rural areas. Everyone's kind of moving out there from the city now. So if you do have a town or a city that's just outside of any major urban center, definitely inquire with myself or Adam to see if we can get that done for you on an exception basis. As far as the extended ratios or exceptions to ratios, for the non-conforming, I did mention that the standard ratios are 4250. But if you have a client that's kind of high net worth and they have $500K in cash or investments in the bank, those ratios can be extended up to 60/70 based on those high net worth being available, as well as a couple of other variables. But if they have that, if the ratio is a little bit high, definitely check with us on the non-conforming because there is some ability to move there.
Great. Thanks, John. All right, last question that was pre-submitted. And when I saw this question come through, I was actually very excited. The question in a nutshell is, I have a client with XYZ criteria. What lender will do this for me? I see this question a lot. And my biased opinion is Lender Spotlight's a great solution for this, but I'll ask the question. The question is, I have a client that wants to purchase a property for $700,000 in Ontario. They have 20% to put down, a high credit score, but they don't have any income. What lender will do this? So, Brad, I might pass that one over to you. I think you'd be best suited to answer that.
Sure, no problem. And the easiest way, and I do get these kinds of questions in here in Spotlight, and people ask me in the chat, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? This question would make immediately think, because with that, we're not talking about regular income. You'd maybe want to look at some equity network lending, because they obviously have scant income or anything else. So you can, if you saw, I've come over here to Spotlight. I've clicked on the policy area, equity and network lending, and then you can take a review through here on policy data. And you can also scroll down and click on one of the lenders and sort of search a little further that way. And all else fails, reach out, especially if you can't find when you're using in the search tool here or anything like that. Something to keep popping up for you.
Great, thanks, Brad. So I'm going to get questions now that we've seen in the chat. Thank you to everyone that put a question through in the chat. Keep them coming. So question to Jonathan. Do you guys lend money on Gulf Island properties with ferry access?
Yeah, great question. So we will do Victoria and Nanaimo, as well as we just opened up Courtney Comox. Those are no problem. We'll do them all day long. The ones that are a little bit stickier, we will do Gibson Seashelt on exception. So it's got to have a decent population. If we're looking at places like Texada and Salt Spring, probably not. But just because things are moving so quickly these days with what's going on, definitely send me an MLS and I'll run it by credit to see if we can do that for you.
Great. I think there's a couple more for you, John, so I'll ask them. Do you lend money on floating homes?
I like this one. As cool as they are, unfortunately, we don't lend on floating homes at this time.
I want to live on a floating home. That sounds great.
Me too.
Another one for you. How do you define non-confirming? By income doc, beacon score, or property type?
Mostly by beacon score. Like I said, there's absolutely no hard stop with low beacons for a non-conforming. It's really those deals that are more common sense deal than those A-type deals. So, for instance, a lot of deals from expats that are currently working in the States but are looking to move back to Canada for a number of reasons. So maybe they have some income that's U.S. income that they are claiming in Canada. Those are the type of things that we count as non-conforming. Especially if the ratios are a little bit higher is what really determines if it's going to be non-conforming or not.
Great, thank you. Last one in here. If there's any other questions, please pop them in now. But this is a question, I believe, again for you, Jonathan. Is there any renewal fee for near prime or non-conforming program?
Yes, there is. That's a great question. So for the renewal fee for near prime, it's 0.5. And if you, we'll give you a heads up, you being the broker 3 months prior to the renewal, if you help us collect up-to-date information and talk to the client, you will receive half of that renewal fee. For the non-conforming, it can be up to 1%, depending on the complexity of the deal. And again, if you help us out with obtaining any up-to-date docs or educating your client on the process, we'll give you half that renewal fee as well.
Great. Lots of questions. I'm glad we have you on the line. You're a popular client. All right. I haven't seen any more questions pop through. So, oh, we've got one more. Awesome. Would Saskatoon be considered a major center? Oh, sorry, this just popped out. Would Saskatoon be considered a major center for People's Bank?
Good question. Even though I love the prairies, I'm from the prairies. Currently, we're only lending in BC and Ontario at this time.
Cool. Okay. Another question has popped through. Do we, just wondering, do we brokers have commission for renewal?
Yeah, that's right. So we charge 0.5 on the near prime, and you will receive 0.5 for helping us talk to the client and collect documents. Same thing with the non-conforming. It can be up to 1%, where we will give you half of that for helping us collect.
Great. Okay, great. That was the last question. A couple popped through near the end there. I'm wondering if anyone's being shy. I want everyone to get a chance to ask their questions. Okay. Looks like that. How do you sign up?
Another great question. So if you're out here in BC, you talk to me. We are now, after a number of years, finally on Velocity or Expert, whatever you use. So just reach out to me. There's a simple sign-up process, and I can get you set up in 48 hours. For those of you in Ontario, reach out to my friend Adam Clark out there, and he can do the same for you.
Great. Oh, John, do you want to supply your email for everyone?
Yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll.
Oh, so I think he lost him by accident.
Oh, no. All right. Well, that is a great segue. I hear a lot of people on the line wanting to get in touch with Jonathan. If he pops back on. Oh, there he is.
I'm back. Sorry, something happened there and I glitched. So.
No worries, Jonathan. If you mind supplying your email, and I'll put it on the slide here so everyone can see it.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. There is one more question that's come through, which is awesome. Love to see all these questions. Would you consider the BC interior for lending? This is one of the areas that has seen quite an influx in purchases due to people getting out of the city. Williams Lake, Quesnel, or 100 Mile?
Great question. Yes, absolutely. You're right, Christina. We've seen a lot of activity out there. Kelowna, Penticton, Vernon, no problem. Williams Lake, Quesnel, 100 Mile, we will have to do on exception. I haven't gotten one done yet, but they are considering it. So absolutely send me an MLS or whatever property information you have, and I'll do my best to run it by credit and get it done for you. Great.
And there is a question on here to contact you. I've taken note of the email address, Jonathan, so I'll pass it over to you after this meeting so you can make sure to get in touch.
Awesome, will do.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. So before we sign off, just want to quickly share my screen with Jonathan's email in case anyone wants to note it down. There we go. So Jonathan s@peoplesgroup.com. If you have any questions that come to mind after this, if you go to lenderspotlight.ca, if you have an account with Lender Spotlight, you can sign in. There's a live chat there that Brad and the customer support team mans and gets responds to quite quickly. So feel free to get in touch on lenderspotlight.ca and ask your questions. And if you have any questions or feedback or anything you want to touch base on, my email is marketing@lendesk.com. And I'd love to hear from you, what you'd like to hear from in the future, and anything of that nature.